Welcome back. In the last video we had a look at how we could add and subtract fractions, and then at the end of the video we had come up with a set of instructions that we can use that tells anyone how to perform these operations. More specifically, it's a set of instructions we can use to tell a computer how to perform addition and subtraction. Now in this video what we're going to look at is how we can go about turning these instructions here into a beautiful flowchart like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a computer app to draw a flowchart that resembles these set of instructions here. Now to do that, the first thing we need is we need to navigate to a website called app.diagrams.net. So open up a web browser, preferably Chrome, and we'll type in app.diagrams.net. And then we're going to hit enter to navigate there. It's going to come up with options, create a new diagram or opening existing. Now for most of us it's going to be create a new diagram. So I'll click on that. Then I'll go to flowchart like so. You can do blank document, but it's a bit easier if we start with flowchart. And I'll go create. It will then cue me on where I want to save it. And I'm just going to put it in my desktop for now. So we'll call it adding and fractional arithmetic. So, and then we'll create a blank one. We'll just get rid of all this for now because we don't need that. Now what we've got is a blank screen with grid paper. Then on the left here we've got a toolbar. We've got general, and what we need to do is open up flowchart. Now what we have in flowchart here are all of the boxes we can use to represent the flowchart that we want to draw here. Or more specifically, we've got all of the boxes that we need to be able to implement the instructions here. Now going from the top, whenever we start a flowchart, we always start off with these funny looking blocks here. So I'll drag 2 into my workspace like so. Then I'm going to drag them across. So I'll go 4 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll go 2 high like so. Then I can do the same for this one, or I can just copy and paste. Then I'm going to write, double click on it, I'm going to go begin. Then I'll type, hold down shift and type enter, and we'll call it fractional arithmetic. And this is the name of our program. Then I'll go up and I'll just go bold. Bold for begin. Then I'll get this name and I'll paste it down in here and I'll call it end. So what we've got now are the starting and terminating blocks for our program. Now in between these blocks here, what we need to do is slowly implement these instructions here. So our first instruction is to get first fraction. So we've got to get the numerator and store the variable n1. Get the denominator, store the variable d1. So the blocks that we're going to use are the square blocks, and they're located here. So what we're going to go for is a process block here, and I like to do them roughly 4 by 2. Now the first operation that we need to do is the get numerator and storing variable n1. So traditionally what we can do with these is, rather than using a process block, we need to go for a user input block, and that's done with these, I guess you could call them the rhombus side of shape. And what we can say is we'll go get, and then we'll go on new line and we'll say numerator equals user input. Now let's have a think about this. The numerator that we're after is n1. So rather than writing numerator, let's change it to n1. So we get the input from the user, n1. Now we need to think, is the user going to know instantly to type the numerator in, or do we have to queue the user? So we have to queue the user. So I'll write print tell me the numerator. And thus, what's going to happen is the program will start, it will say, tell me the numerator. And then the user will enter the numerator and it will get stored in the variable n1. Now, after that, we need to store or get the denominator and store it in variable d1. So we'll get a copy of these blocks and we'll paste them. Now we'll go down like so, and we'll go tell me the denominator, and then we'll go d1 equals user import. And now let's just draw some arrows linking all of these blocks together. Okay, awesome. So going back, what we've got is get the first fraction, so get the numerator, store in variable n1, get the denominator, store in variable d1. So what we've got, tell me the numerator, tell me the denominator. Now the only other thing we need to tell there is we need to tell the user we want the first fraction. So print tell me the first fraction. And we'll say tell me about the first fraction. So what will happen is the program will start and it will say tell me about the first fraction, tell me the numerator. The user will enter the first numerator, store it in variable n1. Then I'll say tell me about the denominator. User enters the denominator and it gets stored in d1. So that's our first little block here. Now we need to do the same for the second fraction. So basically it's the same as the first with one minor tweak. Rather than saying tell me about the first fraction, we say tell me about the second fraction. So I'll get all of these and I'll copy and then I'll paste them, and we'll do it side by side. Nice and easy. Then we'll change first to second. So running through this, we go print first fraction, tell me the numerator, gets it and stores it, asks for the denominator, gets it and stores it. Then it prompts the user to tell them about the second fraction, gets a numerator, stores it in variable n1. We don't want that, we want to store it in variable n2. Then the denominator like the same, it goes in d2, like so. Alright, so we've got the first two blocks here. So get first fraction, get second fraction. Now we need to get the operation. So we'll say, we'll grab this block and we'll grab these two blocks actually. And we'll modify them. We'll say, tell me the operation. And we'll store operation in op. So get operation, store in variable op. So tell me the operation, store it in op. So that's ask user for operation, that's done. Now, the long part, perform operation with two fractions. So what we need to do is, first thing is we need to work out the denominator and store it in variable d3. To do that, we multiply d1 and d2 together. So we're going to copy that, and we'll go set and we'll say d3 equals d1 times d2. So our first denominator multiplied by our second denominator, d1 and d2. So d3 equals d1, d2. So that should do this for us. So this part here. Now second part is we're calculating this part of the fraction here. So 4 times 3, or first numerator times second denominator. So what we're going to do with this part of the code is, firstly we multiply them together, and then we store it. So it's going to look like, copy this guy, and we're going to go set n1 times d2, and we're going to store that in n1 d2, like so. And then we need n2 and d1, so we multiply 2 and 5 together, and we store it in this variable here. Alright, now almost the final step. We have a condition where we either, if we asked, or if the user told us we want to add, then we add the two numbers together. Or if the user told us to subtract, we subtract the two numbers. What we need to do is we need to find the condition where we can explain this to the program. Now for this, we're going to use a different block. We're going to use the triangle, or the decision block. So it looks a bit like a diamond. So I'm simply going to go over there and click on it, like so. That will introduce the diamond in. Now space it out. I like to do these ones roughly the same as process blocks. So we're going to go if, then we'll go op equals, we'll say arithmetic, or even better, we'll just say plus. Maybe arithmetic's more clearer. So we're going to say addition. So if operation is addition, then we're going to do one or the other. So if it's addition, we need to add n1 d2 with n2 d1. So n1 d2 plus n2 d1, and we'll store that result in n3. Conversely, if we're doing subtraction, then we have to minus them, so the operation goes from positive to subtraction. Now we'll space those out nice and neatly, then we'll draw some arrows down like so. Beautiful. Alright, and then finally we simply bring it all back together. So once we perform the arithmetic, we've got to print it back to the screen. So grab that, we'll paste it, and we'll say print the result is, then we'll say plus n3 plus over plus d3, and we'll pull that aside so it's easier to read, like so. Then we have to build some arrows to link all of these together. So I'll grab this annotation here in flowchart, and I'll rotate it around, line them up and drag them out. We'll set this to the same point. Okay, so that's the same color, quite aligned. There we go. Print like so. Now the next step is we get the end, we put that in. We'll line it up. Okay, final step is we need to join all of these blocks together to complete the program. So we'll get this begin program here and we'll bring it down to link it up with this block. These blocks over here, they're going to link up. these blocks down here, they need to link up as well. I'm going to make it so the distancing of the arrows is reasonably consistent, so it's just nicer to read. And then finally link this up with this guy over here. Alright, perfect. So what we've got is a flowchart that demonstrates the behavior of the program that we saw over here. So we begin the program, we ask the user for the first fraction, and it says, tell me about the numerator. User gives the numerator. Tell me about the denominator. User gives the denominator. After that, it says, tell me about the second fraction. The user gives the numerator, stores, give the denominator, stores. After that, the program asks, tell me the operation, and the program stores it in the variable op, like so. So let's just change these variables to bold so they're nice and easy to read. So what we can see is that this first part of the program here, this is all about getting information from the user. The second part of the program over here, this is all about crunching the numbers. So D3, we set D3 to D1 times D2. So we are performing the actual operation to calculate the common denominator. Then we're calculating the first part of the numerator, second part of the numerator. Then we bring it all together. So if the operation is addition, we we add the variables together and store it in variable n3. If it's subtract, we subtract the first part of the second part of the numerator from the first part, store it in n3. Then finally we wrap it all up by printing the results back to the user. So let's have another look at this running. So we've got, I'm a program that adds fractions. Let's add some fractions. So tell me about the first. We'll go 2 and 5. And then we'll go 3 and 6. Well, missed a keystroke. 2 and 5. 3 and 6. And the operation is addition. So the result is 27 over 30. So basically that's what we see here. The two changes we could make to make this program function exactly the same as this one is we simply add these two lines of code here. I'm a program that adds fractions. Let's add some fractions. You could add 2 blocks here and here, but this is the basic functionality. Now, in the initial program that I showed you, it was nice and colored. The way in which we can do that with these programs is we simply click on the box that we want, hold shift and click on the other one. So they're like for like, and you can set it to whatever color you want. Me personally, I like having my start and end blocks as green, but if you want, they could be yellow, they could be orange, they could be red, whatever you want. I'll set mine to green. The process blocks, I really like having those as blue. So I'm going to select them all. And I'll make it blue. And my input blocks, I like to put those as red. And finally my conditional blocks, I like to have those as purple. So this is where conditions are set or where decisions are made. Now it doesn't matter what color you want to have these, but the idea is you want to make it such that it makes the program easier to read. You wouldn't want to have, say, this as orange and these as gray and those as green, because that doesn't really help us at all. Rather, you want to keep them set to a color that makes the program easier to read. So what you should be able to do now is, if you followed along, you should know how to be able to go to this website and start a new project. You should be able to copy and paste blocks into your blank project. And then you should be able to, in theory, copy all of these instructions over and arrange them in such a way that you can draw a beautiful flowchart like this. When you're done, you go to File, you go to Save, you go to File, you go to Export, and you go PNG. And then you can just save it to your device and it will download for you. So this has been a lesson demonstrating how you can convert a set of instructions like this into a beautiful flowchart like this using app.diagrams.net.